talk about training up our youth. Last week we had a talk about it is well with my soul. Both of these are demonstrations of legacy and what we leave as we leave the mortal coil. So today I'd like you to start with this affirmation. You see it on the screen. Join me when I say, I give a hand up and with what I choose to pass down. Together?
I will give a hand up with what I choose to pass down.
And one more time.
I give a hand up with what I choose to pass down.
So now let's prepare ourselves for a time of connection with the source by turning within. And if you're new to this community or to this practice, we're engaging in our unity principle of practicing the presence. And if you're still not sure what this means or how to do it, begin by simply taking a deep breath in and letting it go. Once more, a deep breath in, all the way into your body, and let it go. Take your time and relax into this moment. And as you move deeper into your centering experience, I invite you to open your heart and allow yourself to be as vulnerable as you are willing to be as you prepare the space to be in conscious connection with your understanding of God and with the God of your understanding. Peter Stroppel, a noted speaker, philanthropist, and conscious capitalist, wrote, "Legacy is not leaving something for people. It's leaving something in people." Here's today's reading. How we live our lives today can determine how life is lived tomorrow. And as we live life with intention, we can create the legacy we wish to leave others. How can I be remembered? It can be through a family business I leave, property I bequeath, material and capital gains that I will. It can also be through ideals and stories I share, or values and ways of being that I embody. To be remembered for our kindness, compassion, and other uplifting and inspiring attributes is a worthy purpose to pursue. Individually or collectively, we add to whatever we choose to leave as a legacy with every choice and decision we make today. Given thoughtfulness and prayer, we all can create legacies that benefit others for generations to come. And as we prepare to enter the silence, consider this week's reflection question. What have I done today that people will gratefully speak about tomorrow? And now listening in the silence. As you allow yourself now to return your awareness from the inner to the outer, know that a legacy, as defined by Webster, is something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor or from the past. Notice that no mention is made of whether or not what is being passed down is intentional. You have and will have a legacy. The question is, what do you choose for yours to be? Imagine reimagining the phrase, "This too shall pass," with a twist. This too I choose to pass on. Listening once again to today's affirmation, I give a hand up with what I choose to pass down. And as you go about your day today, remember the reflection question, only this time in the present tense. What am I choosing to do today that people will gratefully speak about tomorrow? And now imagine your legacy to be peace, love, and joy in abundance. And remember to breathe. People hand in hand. But what I'd like to know is, could a place like this exist so beautiful? Do we have to take our wings and fly away to the visions in our mind? Visions in our mind. William Menifeld. Stevie Wonder's son. No, he's not. Let's hear it for Chakra. That was absolutely dreamy. Did you feel that? Wonderful. Thank you. All under the direction of Chet Schwalik this morning. And let's just give a shout out to that beautiful solo, Barry Finnerty. Thank you, Barry. Our bassist, Rob Lemus. And our drummer, Jeff Merriweather. And a beautiful, beautiful meditation by Mr. David Cook. Ooh. Wow, that took me back. I want to invite everybody to continue to move people into the prayer field this morning as they come to mind. They're not coming to mind haphazardly, but they're coming to mind because there is a desire for prayer and help and healing. And so if they come to your mind or to your heart, just enter them into the prayer field while we are together this morning, yes? And if by chance you need someone to call, if you need someone to reach out to you, and we're not aware of it, then don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always reach out to our angel response team at office@unityofsacramento.com. We are constantly calling people to check on people, to let them know that they are loved and thought of. And if there's someone that we are missing, it is not intentionally. And so feel free to reach out, and we'll reach out in return. We are in the middle of our Sacred Song Sermon series. Have you been enjoying it? Yes. It's an opportunity for us to acknowledge the power of music, the power of song, especially in the context of church, in the context of our sermons, in the context of Scripture. And so this is a lesson series that is unlocking the mystery, the history, the message, and the meaning in the music. And the first week we talked about His eye is on the sparrow. Do you recall that?
That beautiful song that is probably the second most recognized spiritual or Christian song ever, right behind Amazing Grace. Wouldn't you agree? And then the second week we talked about It Is Well With Our Souls, where we heard that story about the lyricist of that song and the challenges that he faced and how that song came to be out of those challenges. And today, our music for this morning is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot is an African-American spiritual, and the date that it was composed isn't known. But we know it as more than a song. It's more than a funeral dirge or a song of resignation by enslaved African Americans toiling in the cotton fields of the South, surmising that the only way out of slavery is to die and be swept up into heaven by God into the by and by. It's more than that. It is literally a song of freedom. What is it? A song of freedom. It is a song sung from the cotton fields to secretly alert those seeking to free themselves from the grips of slavery that an opportunity to escape is approaching. The great trumpeter, Wynton Marsalis, named one of his CDs, The Black Codes from the Underground. And that's what this song is. It is a black code from the underground being the Underground Railroad. Listen to the words. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forward to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. But a band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. If you get there before I do, come on, for to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'm coming too, coming for to carry me home. Say the rest with me. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Metaphorically speaking, the word chariot for enslaved black people stood for the Underground Railroad, a vehicle of power and freedom. The Underground Railroad was a network of free black people, abolitionists. Let's get that right. That's another sermon for another day. Let me go back. The Underground Railroad was a network of free black people, abolitionists, and allies that assisted the enslaved to escape from plantations. To swing low meant to stay low and unseen, usually through the cloak of night. The reference to the Jordan River was often the nearest river, any river, which was a path that had to be taken in order to wash away the scent and escape the dogs that were trained to hunt slaves down. The word home was heaven on earth. It was wherever freedom away from slavery was. And it was no accident that heaven is north. Heaven is freedom. The title of the song itself could easily be changed to Swing Low, Sweet Harriet, rather than Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, as Harriet Tubman made over 12 missions to free enslaved black people through the Underground Railroad. Chariots are frequently mentioned in the Hebrew Tanakh and the Greek Old Testament, respectively, particularly by prophets as instruments of war or as symbols of power or glory. Merkava, which means in Hebrew chariot, or also spelled Merkaba, or pronounced Merkaba, say Merkaba, also means the throne, or the throne of God. And it became an object of visionary contemplation for early Jewish mystics. Furthermore, this song is based in Scripture, and once again it shows the link between the sacred song and the sermon message. But when you read the Scripture from which this song originates, you realize that this is also a story about legacy, David. Let's read this passage of Scripture from which this song originates and refers to. You can find it in 2 Kings, the 2nd chapter, the 1st through the 14th verses. It's there that we are introduced to two prophets, Elijah and Elisha. Who are they? Elijah and Elisha. That's important. For Elijah is a mentor to Elisha. Elijah came first, and Elisha is a protege. And we see them at this very particular time of their time together. It says in the 2nd chapter, in the 1st verse, now when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were on their way from Gilgal. And so now we're beginning to see where this song comes from. There's something that's about to take place, and someone is about to be swept up into the heavens. It's Elijah. Elijah says to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has sent me as far as Bethel." But Elisha said, As the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. So they went down to Bethel. And the company of the prophets who were in Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you? And he said, yes, I know, but keep silent. Didn't want to deal with that. They were close to one another. And he was like, yeah, I got the word. I'm a prophet. I got the word. But let's just pretend it's not happening. And then it continues. And Elijah said to him, Elisha, stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jericho. But he said, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will what? Not leave you. Are you beginning to see a pattern here? Elisha doesn't want to miss him, thinking that maybe this can be subverted. Maybe he can keep hold to his mentor if he just sticks around and stays with him. I've seen this. I've seen this in my own life. People who are getting ready to go to glory, people who are ready to make their transition into their next life, into their next chapter, into their next whatever. And yet, those who are to remain behind don't want to give the space for what comes next. Are you with me this morning? It's like, as sure as there's a God and sure as there is you, I will not leave you. And Elijah is trying to say, but I have to go. Not long ago, I mentioned that Jesus went through the same thing. I really believe that Jesus left because had he not left, then the disciples would never come into their own power. And here, a protege who is and has been dependent upon learning from Elijah is not ready, at least he feels he's not ready to let Elijah go. Are you with me this morning? And so he says, I will not leave you. So they came to Jericho. First there was Gilgal, then there was Bethel, now it's Jericho. The company of the prophets who were at Jericho drew near to Elisha and said to him, do you know? And he said, yeah, I know. Do you know that today the Lord will take your master away from you? And he answered, yes, I know. Keep silent. Then Elijah said to him, stay here, for the Lord has sent me to Jordan. But guess what? Elijah says, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. As you yourself live, I will not leave you. So the two of them went on. And 50 men of the company of prophets also went and stood at some distance from them, as they both were standing by the Jordan River. Then Elijah took his mantle and rolled it up and struck the water. Now, a mantle is a cloak, okay? And so Elijah takes his cloak. This is the cloak from which his power, it's a representative of his power. And he goes and he strikes the Jordan. And suddenly the Jordan trembles and rumbles, and all of a sudden it parts. And the dry land in the middle is where Elijah and Elisha walks through. Haven't we seen this before? Didn't we see? Who did we see this from? Didn't we see this from Moses? So Moses' mantle was his stick, and Elijah's mantle was his cloak. Are you with me? Amazing. Elijah took his mantle, rolled it up, and struck the water. The water was parted to the one side and to the other, and the two of them crossed on dry ground. Yes. Then, when they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me what I may do for you before I am taken from you." Elisha said, "Please, let me inherit a double share of your spirit." He responded, "You have asked a hard thing. Yet, if you see me as I am being taken from you, it will be granted you." Notice the shift. Notice the shift. He went from as long as you live, for as long as you live, I will be with you. Now, Elijah is shifting the narrative. He's saying, you ask a hard thing for double of my spirit. However, if you can see me being taken from you, in other words, if you let me go, then this will be granted you. Are you with me? All right. Otherwise, if not, it will not happen. As they continued walking and talking, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them, and Elijah ascended in a whirlwind into heaven. Elisha kept watching and crying out, "Father, Father!" The chariots of Israel and its horsemen. But when he could no longer see them,